Hey everybody, this is Ori from AstroWeb, and I'm going to introduce you today all of the basics of Shopify SEO. This video is mostly for beginners, but what I want to focus on in this video is, excuse me, what are the actual Shopify default settings that come out of the box? What can you do out of the box that's helpful for your SEO efforts? This is the focus. In future, we'll have a lot of other videos talking about the general SEO, advanced SEO, many different things. But this one is talking about the basics for store owners, what they need to know inside Shopify. So before I actually show you all of the things that are built into Shopify, I want to step back half a step, first of all, and talk about really a simple recap, a simple summary of how you actually do SEO. What's the main concept? So first of all, what is SEO? SEO is search engine optimization. It's having your business, your store, optimizing its site so you can get more business, more traffic, more visitors coming from people that type in things in the search engine. So for example, let's say I'm selling these bags. This is my test store that I've been making a lot of videos. It's just a test store. Okay, let's say I'm selling these Adidas backpacks, right? So what I want to do is I want to figure out all of the customers that go to Google and Yahoo and Bing and all of these search engines, but we're going to focus a lot on Google in this video. Um, and all I'm going to focus on the ones that actually trying to buy my product. So for example, if someone types in Adidas backpack, okay, and they type it in, I want to basically be listed on page one, on the first page, and I want my site here, and then it links to my specific, product page or category page, collection page, etc. And I want to get the business. Now I'm competing with a lot of other sites and competitors directly with the brand, directly with competitors. So what I need to do is I need to have a strategy, right? I need to work on it and need to optimize this. Okay, so this is the most basic thing. If I optimize and I do good, the search engines think I have value, I will get the traffic, I will get the business. This is what search engine optimization is, really simply. So the first thing you need to do before we jump into Shopify is you need to do a keyword research, right? You need to know what terms are your potential customers typing in Google that you want to try to appear on the first page, on the first result, etc. So Adidas backpack, maybe Adidas backpack women, black backpack, etc., etc. So there could be a lot of different terms. So how do you start that? What you do, there's many ways to do it. Number one is you can brainstorm the keywords, right? Number two, you can look at the auto suggest, right? So you can type in all the keywords you think your customers are going to type in. Then you can look how the auto suggests other popular ones. And the other one is you can actually go to Google Ads, register as an advertiser, and go here, for example, to the keyword planner, go to tools, go to planning, keyword planner, and click on discover new keywords and just type them in, right? So for example, Adidas backpack, okay, and I'm gonna click here. Of course, if you need to change the country or the language, you can do so. And so you notice here, Google is gonna give you the average monthly searches. So you can see what terms are people doing? So for example, I might not have guessed that people type in, a lot of people, almost 10,000 people a month, type in Adidas mini backpack, right? That might be one of my keywords. So you're gathering keywords, you're figuring out what do you want to optimize for. And you can also see for ads how much they cost and how competitive they are, things like that. You might have some opportunities with some other things like this, right? A small term. So you're going to gather keywords, and then what you're going to do is you're actually going to put the keywords in a keyword tool. So for example, Moz is a really good SEO software tool. You can put it in, you can track the keywords week after week and figure out how to optimize. Okay, so this is kind of the idea. So once assuming you've done this, and we'll make videos for these details, now you're ready to start. So now you have your keywords, you know what you're targeting, you know what you're selling, you're tracking the keywords, you're figuring out the positions, and now we can actually start with the video. So I hope this is not too slow for everybody, but if you do have any questions, more detail, I'll be happy to answer. We'll make a ton more videos. Okay, now let's jump into Shopify. Okay. So what can you do with Shopify? So first of all, if I'm a new store and I've never optimized, I want to set up two things. Number one, I want to set up Search Console. Okay. What is Search Console? Google Search Console. It's a very simple thing, and it allows me to connect with Google, and Google can actually tell me more about how my website is performing on the search engine result pages. It's telling me if I have errors. It's telling me how when Google crawls and reads my website and understands my pages and what I'm talking about on my website, what I'm trying to sell. It'll give you some information, performance, keywords. Um, it'll help me give me different statuses. If there's major issues, it'll tell me about it. So you want to connect it. So what you do is you go to Search Console, click on Now, and you're going to need to verify. The verification is outside this video, but I'm happy to answer questions. Once you do that, you're going to go to sitemaps and you're going to connect your sitemap. And this is only for first time stores. What you're going to do is every Shopify website by default, if you go just to the domain name and you type in slash sitemap.xml, what you're going to be basically getting is this is an XML file, which is a specific text file that has a list of every single page that you have, all the products, all the collections, all the pages, all your blog posts, things like that. So what it's going to do is inside this page, inside this XML, there's links to all of the products, all of the pages, collections, and blogs. So if you go here, for example, to pages, you'll be able to see a list of all. So for example, I have 5 pages in this test site. Okay, so what does this do? This just lists all of the products you have. And what we're going to do is we're going to connect it. We're going to tell the search engines, Google in this example, here you go. This is a live dynamic updated list of everything I got. If you add a new product tomorrow, this XML file will update. So it helps the search engines identify and recognize pages as they come, as they're added, and as they disappear. It'll actually give the search engine more information. So search engines can find you, they can read you. Once they find you, they can crawl you. Once they crawl you, they can rank you. Once they rank you, you can actually get traffic. Once you get traffic, you can actually get business, right? So this is the kind of the concept. Okay, so number one, you want to connect a sitemap. You just go here, click on submit. After you click on submit, it'll look something like this. Okay, great. The second thing you want to connect is Google Analytics. Why do you want to do that? Number one, you want to track your visitors, your traffic. What are people doing? How are they purchasing? What browsers are they using? All this technology thing. But related to SEO, you have 2 major things. Actually, you have many things, but 2 major things I'm going to talk about in this video. Number one is when you connect the Search Console and you go to Acquisition Search Console, you'll be able to actually see more information about your queries, just like we track using a tool like Moz. You can actually track the keywords. How many times were they clicked on from the search from Google? How many times have they showed that people have not clicked on, right? Impressions. How many times have they been clicked on? Or what's the click-through rate? And what's the average position? So 3.1, for example, right, for this term means that I'm on average the 3rd location of the organic. Now ads might be above me, but I'm usually number 3, which is pretty good. Okay, so, and this will help me optimize and figure out how do I do better. Maybe there's opportunities, maybe this keyword's at 4.5, but if I do a small adjustment, then I can do better. So you see my click-through rate here is 5%. 5% of the time that I'm showing on the page, I'm actually clicked on. If I do a small optimization, I might get a ton more visitors. Okay, hope that makes sense. So number one is connect all the things for Search Console. You can see, your data of Search Console by queries, which is the most popular report you're going to look at, by landing pages, the actual pages people come from Google and enter the first page of your website, the countries and the devices. Okay, what else can you do, which is really important for search engine optimization and user experience? You can monitor the site speed. How fast is your website is good for your customers, good for your business, and search engines like it as well, so you want to optimize for it. Okay, for example, my site is pretty fast. It's running at 3.56 seconds. Okay, and I can see details about the specific pages, things like that. Okay, so if I want to see, for example, my average load, not based on the whole average, but specific pages, I can actually see here. For example, these are slow pages. I can go here and I can see my fastest pages. Okay, now I'm not sure why it says 0, but I think you understand. So some pages might have been very fast, but let's go right here. Go to page. Okay, so for example, these are some pages that load very, very fast. Okay, great. So now we've connected these 2 things. Now finally we're getting to Shopify stuff. So I'm going to close these. We don't need this anymore. We don't need this. We don't need this. Okay, Again, this is a test site which we're working on right now, so don't worry about the content right now. For example, this is just a collection pages. So what can you start to do? First of all, I'm going to go to my dashboard, my home, and I'm going to show you some things. So um, number one is another thing to note about is Robots.txt. So in addition to us connecting Google Analytics and Search Console, there's one more thing, which is to Robots.txt. This is a file that Shopify creates by default, which every website needs, every store needs. You cannot change it, so this is kind of just good to know. But the Robots.txt tells the search engines when they come to visit your website, what to visit and what not to visit. Okay, it's a recommendation. It's basically telling them, for example, I don't want Google to visit my shopping cart page. I only want it to visit my catalog, products, collections, pages, etc. So this is good to know in case you have an SEO person working and asking you questions about Shopify. This is the default. You cannot change it. Okay. There are ways to optimize against this, but we can talk about it a little bit later. Okay. So let's jump in. So now that we have our keyword research, we know what keywords we're targeting, we know how they're ranking, we need to do optimization. So every single page on the website, you want to include the keyword that you're trying to promote for that specific page. For example, if I'm selling this backpack versus this shoe, I would be targeting Adidas backpack terms. Here I would be targeting Adidas shoes, Adidas men's shoes, Adidas kids shoes, Stan Smith, all of these keywords. So let's talk about it. So what do you have? So number one, just pages. If I go here to online store, I go to pages and I edit a page. So every single page you need to actually go. I'm going to click here, edit. What can I do? First of all, this is my title. This is a very important part of this page. So for example, this is my page. Okay, this is just an example page, right? Not a great example, but it's a page. So the about us is one of the most important terms the search engines understand. So you want to make sure that you explain the page related to what you're trying to optimize to and what you're trying to sell to. Okay, so let's go here. So what can I do? I can, number one, make sure the title is optimized, the description is optimized, and right here, the search engine listing preview, I need to make sure that my page title would be this, what we call the title tag right here. Okay. The description is the meta description. So meta description would be, okay, so the page title, let's go, this is a search engine result. The page title would basically be this. So when you're actually ranked on the page, people would see this thing. So the title has to be optimized, relevant to people, making people want to click on it. The meta description is this thing right here. Okay, so meta description is here. And the URL should also be relevant to the page, is here. So if you already click on it, let's say, for example, here, the URL is anything that happens after the domain name. So for example, women's bags right here. You want to use these things. You want to put in your keywords there. You don't want to go crazy and be spammy, but you want to make sure that those pages are relevant. This is a page about women's bags and backpacks. So they type in women's bags. It looks clean. It's easy to understand what the page is about. The keywords are here, right? And for example, the meta description. Let's look at this, a little code stuff. Description, here it is, meta description, and here's my description. Shop Adidas, workout, browse here. This would be my meta description, something like that. Okay, hope you can see that better. Okay, and this is just some code that they used. Okay, and it would look something like that. So once you do it, you can save it. So you can do the same thing, not just for pages, you can also do it for products. Okay, let's not save this. Same thing for products. Products always have the product name, the URL. All of these things that you just saw on pages are the same on products. So if I edit a product, I have my title, I have my description. Okay, now in addition, on product pages, you have images. So if you click on an image, you can also edit for the search engines the alt text, the alternate text. Basically, it's telling the search engines, what is this image about? So I would, for example, call it black Adidas backpack. Okay, and maybe I would call it all black, for example, maybe. right? I'm trying to describe it in a way that's very short, but it's explaining to the search engines. Okay, so every image you want to use alt tags. And of course, you have the search engine listing, which is the same, the title, title tag, meta description, and URL. Okay, so you want to do that. I click on it, I would save, I move forward. What else can we do? We can do the same thing with collections. Same exact thing. Every single thing you're doing, every page, collection, blog post, product, you always want to do these things. You want to think carefully. How do you describe these pages to your customers? And also, how can you optimize with the search engines? So if I click on a collection, I have the collection name, the description, and obviously I have my SEO preview, title tag, meta description, URL. Okay, great. Same thing I have for my blog. Okay, so let's go here. Let me go to right here, blog post, and I can put here, if I click on a blog post, I can do the same thing. Title, description, and of course the SEO parts. Okay, very important. Title tag, meta description, and URL. Great. So now we covered all the basic things, title tags, descriptions, alt text. These are kind of basic things that every time you create something, you're actually going to optimize for it. And when you make changes, right? Maybe I have a page today, functions in one way, and I change it. I want to test it. I want to more optimize it for search engines. You're going to look at your keyword tool and see if you're improving or you're not improving, right? So you want to kind of make changes, things like that. Okay. So next part, what else can we optimize for? Let's go right here. So navigation. So one of the important parts of SEO is the way, so every page in SEO is ranked, is related to each other. So you're trying to make your website more optimized for search engine, but in particular, you're trying to make each page optimized for what that page is selling. For example, this shoe should optimize for selling this shoe. When a customer expects this shoe to be on the page and they get to it, they're happy, right? So there's something called interlinking, right? So the way you structure your website, right? So the way people can find your product. If I make it very hard to find this product, there's no way for me to get to it here or maybe on the footer or on these, navigations. The search engine, so the customer will be hard to find it. But the search engine understands that it's also hard to find it because they see the navigation, they see the interlinking, and then they know that you're not trying to prioritize that page. Any pages that you link to a lot within your structure will have better SEO by default, right? So the chance of you ranking for that and optimizing, telling the search engines you're more trying to sell this kind of product or this kind of collection or this kind of page, the better. So what you want to do is make sure that you can actually find your products very easily and very quickly. So what you want to do is you want to really think carefully about your header and your footer. For example, if I'm really trying to sell backpacks, but I don't have any backpacks here, I only have the brands, I might want to, for example, go here and type in backpacks, okay? And of course, I need a collection for that. Let's just assume I have a backpack. I'm just going to make up something, for example, and I'm going to add it. And what I can do basically is I can put it in the Adidas right here. I'll put it here. So now I have a full optimization of a backpack page. Okay, so for example, let me make a better example for you guys. I think it'll be more clear, and I think this is also important. I'm going to go here. I'm going to create a new collection called Adidas Backpacks. Okay, and let's just assume I'm putting all this information in, and I'm going to put my products in. Okay, so let's say the title has the word backpack. Okay, and also the vendor has Adidas. Okay, let's just assume I did this. I'm going to put my SEO Adidas backpack for men and women. Let's say this, and then of course the meta description. So I'd have to have something like we had before, right? Something like this. Okay, great. And Adidas backpacks in my URL. Sounds good to me. So I'm going to go here, Adidas backpacks, and now I'm going to go to the actual second. Okay, saved. Good. I'm going to go here to my navigation, and I'm actually going to change it to the relevant one. Okay, so I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to actually change it to the correct one. So backpacks. Adidas. Here it is, okay? And I apply it, and I'm gonna save here. So now if I go to the website, I'll have a better navigation. I'll have a better chance to try to rank. So this is the page, okay? Great. And you see here the title tag, and of course the meta description is in the code, and I did optimizations, okay? So this is the next part. Okay, so let's continue. What else can I do? I can go ahead, let's go here to the back end, a few other things. So the search engines really like clean code, fast websites, clear content, things like that. So one of the most popular things that you need to look at is how do your themes, how does your design actually work with SEO, right? So in most cases, most stores, they use ready apps. What I recommend to do is either ask a professional or do some Google searching to figure out what themes are actually fast and SEO friendly. So right now I don't have too much recommendation because there's many different factors to it, so there's no simple answer for that. But if you have a question, I'll be happy. You can ask it in the comments, and I'll be happy to look in detail and do some things. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you choose your theme that it's more SEO friendly. You find a professional to help with that, right? So what does that mean more friendly? The code is optimized, it loads fast, and the navigation, the way they use it, the navigation is very clear and easy and linkable. And what it does is it allows the search engines to crawl every single page, every content and product and catalog and collection and everything. And it crawls the pages easily, well, etc. In addition, there's some code that is actually more favorable for the search engines. And this code is something we call structured data. Okay. So what is structured data? Structured data is when you make your web page. For example, this is the code, right? So if you don't know HTML, this won't make any sense. But there's all this code, and this code is actually telling the browser, right, my Google Chrome, that this page looks like this. So the structured data has something very, very special. It basically formats the content, all this kind of gibberish. If you're not a coder, it actually tells the search engines very specific thing. For example, it says this thing is a product image. This is a product title. This is a price. This is a business name. So what it does is it structures the data to make the search engines easy to understand what the product is about. This product has reviews. This product is out of stock. This product is in stock. So there's all these things. Some of the themes have good structured data inside. If you're not sure, there's actually a structured data tool. You can actually put in Google structured data. You can do this. If you're not sure, I'm happy to answer and give more detail about this. Okay, you'll put your URL in, for example, this one. I'm going to put it in, and you can actually see what kind of structured data is sent to is actually in the code, and then the search engines will understand. Okay. Now, in addition to good themes, if your theme doesn't support it, you don't have to be too worried because there's actually apps that set up structured data. They're really good for that. So we can talk about that in other videos, but structured data is one of the more popular things, in the last few years. You definitely should have it. It's really simple to apply. And for example, this page has structured data on the page. They talk about the organization, the company basically, and they also talk about the product. So this is the product image, product URL, the description, the price, all these kind of things. So it's a really good thing to do. Okay, so what else can we do? What else can we have? So a good theme is one. The next thing is apps. And so apps, I'm going to make whole other videos for apps because this is a really big topic. But if you know Shopify, if you have a store, if you're actually just wanting to make a store, you can go to the App Store and you can find a lot of cool things for very, very little pricing, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month. They can do a lot of things. So what kind of apps do you want for SEO? Before we get into it in very, very detail on other videos, you want a fast website. So there's apps that compress your images and they add structured data and they optimize your code, things like that. That's number one. You also want apps that actually help with advanced settings. For example, the filters. So when you go to a web page, when you go to a collection, for example, let's go here. Usually you have filters on the left. So these can optimize your title tag and meta description and URLs for all of the filters. So there's all these kind of different apps you want, but really you want a professional to help provide some suggestions of apps, and I'll definitely make some videos in the future for it. So that's it. And now part of speed is, I'm going to talk kind of the reverse around it, but speed optimization is really important for your customers and for search engines. And a lot of Shopify stores we see, they actually install a ton of apps, like 10, 20 apps. In general, the more apps you have, the slower the website you have. So number one, you have to choose apps carefully. And number two, you don't want to overload if you don't need, because the more things happen, the more apps are installed, the more heaviness of the website. So you want to be careful with that. Okay. So you can type in, obviously you can go to the App Store. You can type in things like, SEO. Let's go here, I made a typo. SEO, and you can find all kinds of things like structured data, SEO managers, optimization of images, all these cool things, right? So you want to be careful about that, and of course you want to test, but just want to be, step by step. Okay, now what else do we have here? So we've talked about speed, we've talked about structured data. Okay, next one is 301 redirects. Okay, so when you have a page, so what is 301 redirects, first of all? So it's a technical term that's telling the search engines and the browser, they're telling them to redirect one page to the other. So two main examples happen. If you had a website before Shopify, let's say you had a website with WordPress or some other system, doesn't matter what it was, and you wanted to transfer your entire website, which had tens or hundreds or thousands of products and collections and pages, you want to transfer it to the new one. When you transfer it, the new platform is going to have different URLs, and so when you have a different URL, the search engines and the users are going to be confused. They don't know, you used to have a website with certain pages and now you have a new website. So what's going to happen is, if you transfer the pages and you don't tell the search engines and the browsers that you're actually transferring, page X to page Y, then you're going to have a problem. So for that, there's something called 301 redirects. So you can set up in Shopify, in the default, a way to tell pages, hey, this page used to be this URL, but now it's this URL. Now it's the other one. So how do you do that? You go here to your online store and you go to your navigation. Okay, we've made a video for this. I'll link it in. And you click on URL redirects, and you're basically going to go ahead and create a redirect and say, I want to redirect this URL to this URL. And you can also do it in bulk with apps. So this is a really good thing. If you're not sure about it, I'll link to the video, you'll understand it better. But basically, you don't want to have holes in your old URLs and your new ones. This also applies, and I think this will be a little bit more clear. For example, let's say you had a product that you're on Shopify and you're selling, but then it's discontinued. And you don't want people to actually go to that old page because they can't purchase it. Let's say you want to redirect it to the newer generation, the 2020 or the 2021 product. You can actually go and get the URL of the old page and redirect it. Okay, this is a really good thing to do. And another thing you can do is you can actually use Google Analytics to find 404 pages. So find pages that actually customers arrive to for whatever reason, and they arrive to pages that don't exist, maybe an old page that existed, and you don't want them to get to a page that's so blank and nothing. So what you can do is you can find your 404 pages in Google Analytics, and we've made videos for this, and I'll link to that as well. Find these pages and actually redirect them to homepage or the most relevant page, etc. So you can actually use redirects that'll help SEO and help just your business. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. Okay, if you have a website that has multiple languages, okay, I don't have an example here. If you have multiple languages, you want to make sure your theme includes something called the Hreflang. Okay, so what is Hreflang? Okay, it is a tag in the code, so your developer has to implement, or your theme has to have it already, that basically, if you have a website in multiple languages, in the code, it'll actually specify what the other languages are. What's the URL of the other languages? So the search engines can crawl all of the different languages, and then they can index it, and you can get better rankings for the different languages, the different variations and versions of your website. If you have a theme that the language switcher does not change the URL, so for example, let's just say, for example here, let's just, imagine that we have multiple languages. If I'm on this Adidas collection pages and I changed it to French, and the URL still stayed the same, that's horrible for SEO. Every language change should have its own language. So for example, something like /FR for France and /DE for Germany, that's a better, more friendly one. If your theme doesn't have it, either you ask the theme developer how to implement that, or you find a different theme. This is really, really bad. I've seen it a ton of times. Okay, so language switcher Hreflang, that's a really good one as well. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, so we're almost finished. I know this is a little long video, but we're almost finished. Okay, another thing that's good for SEO is breadcrumbs, right? So most likely your theme has it, but if you're not sure about it, you want to make sure that people can easily find your products via breadcrumbs. Okay, so what are breadcrumbs? Just a way for the customer to go back step by step. So for example, I'm on the product page, I can go back to its main category page and then back to the home page. This will basically help the internal linking, just like we talked about the site structure before. Breadcrumbs typically are good. They help the search engine find all the pages very, very easily. Okay. Um, so let's see what we have. So I think these are kind of the most basic things I want everybody to be aware of. I want to recap this video and just kind of give some interesting insights, some additional things. And again, I'm happy to answer questions. Okay. So for SEO, what can you do with Shopify? So first of all, before you do anything on Shopify, you need to do keyword research, use Google Ads, auto suggest, do these things, do your research, take up your list, put your list in a tool, for example, like Moz or some other keyword ranking tool, figure out how you're ranked, optimize, use the title tags, the meta descriptions, the alt tags, make your website fast, choose the right theme, ask a professional, ask me, for example, I'd be happy to help, and then make sure you have an optimized site. Okay. In addition to that, this video talks about what can you do on Shopify. What else can you do in general, not on Shopify? So search engine optimization, you can optimize your website really, really well, but you might still not be as good as your competitors, right? They might be ranked above you. Why is that? Because the biggest and most important thing you can do on SEO is you can get links. So what does that mean? If other websites actually link to you, so for example, if I'm this website, I'm selling my backpacks, but I have articles, let's say Adidas links to me, or let's say I have a news article about some revolutionary something that I did from CNN, or other people, skateboarders are linking to my website. The more people link to your website, this is what we call link building. The more people link to us, the more value we have, that the search engines know that we're not just this small company that no one knows about us. Other people are talking about us, so actually we should have more value in the search engine. So all of these things we talked about today are what we call internal optimizations, our own website optimizations. If you really want to compete on the very big things, you got to do the internal things, everything we talked about today. But you also got to get links. You got to do good marketing things. People got to love you. You need to do good customer service. People need to write about you. Journalists need to talk about you. You need to have press releases, articles, blogs. You need to have social media. Social media people, social media articles can link to you. You have to have videos, all of these other things. The more people link to you, the more websites link to you, the more bloggers link to you, the more news sites link to you, the better your optimization would be. Okay, so that's a really important thing as far as that. So again, optimization, internal linking, internal optimization, external linking, speed optimization, choosing correct apps, choosing a correct theme, structured data, 301 redirects, and hreflang and things like that. So I hope this made sense. This is a really, really basic thing. If I went too fast, ask questions. I will be making a ton more videos of that. Let me know in the comments also what videos you want to view, and I'll go deeper into any topic that you want, as long as I can present it in a way that's valuable. Really appreciate your time. If you have any suggestions or other things you do for SEO, I'd be happy to hear as well and learn from you guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.